Now, I originally wanted to talk about something positive in the gaming world, but circumstances are such that something's been brought to my attention that I have to address because it is a matter of great importance to me, namely the game Avowed made by Obsidian and ultimately published by Microsoft. You see, I've made no secret of the fact that I am a strong advocate for Avowed because I have my biases. I am very, very invested in the world of Aora, the world of Pillars of Eternity, and I was overjoyed originally when I found out that the setting would be continued in one shape or form or another. And I just want to make that clear at the outset. I'm very biased when it comes to Avowed because I really like Pillars of Eternity. However, something has come to light that is very disconcerting. Yesterday, Avowed was made officially available on Steam. And to my great disappointment and consternation, I saw unmeasured and unjustified prices there. What I'm specifically talking about is, one, the fact that the base game costs 70 euros, and many people have made the argument that after years of the standard static 60 euros for a AAA game price, that this was simply bound to shift. And indeed, there have been many AAA games that have been priced at 70 euros. But my issue with this specifically is that, as far as I'm aware, Avowed is a short to medium length adventure. And I'm not 100% positive about this, mind you. But my impression and my understanding is that Avowed is something like 30 to 40 hours of gameplay if you do everything. Which has its advantages and benefits. Make no mistake, this is the type of RPG that has a lot of, at least potentially, replayability in case you want to experience different endings, join different factions, that sort of thing. And the 30 to 40 hour benchmark is really, really good for that. On the other hand, given the probable duration of this game, I think that the 70 euro price mark is too much. If Avowed had been 60 euros, or even 50, because I think 50 might be justified, but let's say 60 euros, this would have been much more reasonable. But I think 70 euros is just too much. That's just my take. On top of that, and something that I think is even more egregious, is this weird pre-order bonus that they've announced. Now, if you really want Avowed early, which is something like 5 days earlier, or probably more like 4 days earlier, you can pay a premium of 20 extra euros, making the game 90 euros. And what do you get apart from being able to play it early? You get some lousy and lackluster cosmetic skins that are related to the previous Pillars of Eternity games. Now, if you have the money, and if you love Pillars of Eternity, and you just don't care any of the time, I guess you can do this, but to my mind, this is very pernicious marketing. These are not fair and just prices, and I don't blame Obsidian themselves for this. Developers, programmers, artists don't make this type of policy. This is almost entirely, almost certainly, on people like Phil Spencer and the corpos at Microsoft. Now, there is a method to this madness, though. This isn't just random, this isn't just pure greed, although it is certainly motivated and pushed by greed, because what I think is happening here is these prices are so exorbitant, so ridiculous, because they want to promote and push Game Pass, because you can then just play Avowed on Game Pass without having to shell out all that money to quote-unquote own it on Steam. Although technically you don't own it, that's a different subject for another time. And so if I had to guess, what the corpos are thinking is, well, maybe not so many people will buy this game on Steam or GOG or other platforms, but if they really want to play this game, maybe they'll give us a subscription on Game Pass. Game Pass is what they really want to grow at this stage. They want to see how much they can get out of Game Pass by making, in part, the price of the basic game for normal PC players exorbitantly high. And here's the thing. For those of us who are, to be perfectly blunt, devoted acolytes of the Pillars of Eternity universe, I will be getting the game because this is a series and setting that I am heavily invested in. Mind you, I will not pre-order this. I will not buy the early access version. 90 euros for a game that is probably something like 35 hours long is, in my humble opinion, utterly ridiculous. And so I'm sort of two minds here. On the one hand, I cannot for the life of me condone the pricing, or this ridiculously bad deal for early access. You get to play it 4 to 5 days earlier, and you get some dumpy skins, and you have to pay 20 euros more for that. There are DLCs that cost that much that offer more content. So I really can't condone that. It's ridiculous. On the other hand, I want Avowed to succeed because, to be honest, I love the universe of Pillars of Eternity. And if it doesn't do well financially, it's unlikely that Microsoft will greenlight any future projects in the world of Aora. And so I'm torn here, to be perfectly honest. But I have to stay honest and sincere. I am very biased when it comes to Avowed. I perfectly and totally understand if you think this is overpriced, because it is, and you don't want to play this game. Even if this game were amazing and the Game of the Year candidate, which I don't think it will be because it's going to be very niche and appeal to a certain crowd, but let's say it were that, you probably should still wait for a sale. These prices are not reasonable. However, I will be buying the game, I will be playing the game, and I probably will make a review about the game and talk a lot about the lore and the characters and what have you. So I'm definitely personally invested in this game. But if you don't have the background in Pillars of Eternity, or the interest in the setting, I can scarcely see how this would be a justifiable purchase for you because you just don't have the same level of investment or the background. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe this is the best game since sliced bread, but my expectation is that it's going to be a pretty good game for most people and an excellent game for the aficionados of the Pillars of Eternity universe. And that's just not a universal hit, so these prices are not justified. I thought it was important to bring this to your attention. The current pricing might be symbolic and might actually be a sort of harbinger of things to come in the gaming world when it comes to pricing, because it's not unlikely that in the future, most AAA games will cost 70 euros, which is a steep price indeed to pay. People will argue it's due to development costs, inflation. There are a lot of factors there, which might be worthy of a video on its own, but let me know what you think in the comment section. I think this is way too overpriced. Even if you're a fan of the series, which I am, a huge fan, it's just too much money. And this gimmick of early access is, please, just don't do that. You should not pre-order this game. Wait for reviews, see how it is, see what other people have to say. When I review this game, I will let you know in advance that I am very biased because I like this setting so much. And I have one final concern here. And that is what seems to be the case of Microsoft basically using and abusing Obsidian in the context of some weird corpo experiment at the end of the day. Because, like I said, if most regular Joes are not going to pay that much money for this, and let's say Game Pass doesn't work out, what happens to Obsidian? And we do know that Outer Worlds 2 is in the works, in development. And there's actually going to be a secret level short animation shown next month about Outer Worlds. That I find curious because I always thought Outer Worlds was a relatively okay-ish game, but nothing really to write home about at the end of the day. But I don't think Obsidian as a studio, despite its status as an OG, as a true juggernaut of RPGs, is immune to cancellation or outright destruction. If, for example, Avowed does not meet corpo shareholder expectations, and then for whatever reason Outer Worlds 2 doesn't do particularly well, there's a real distinct possibility that Obsidian could get shut down. And I think that would be tragic, because Obsidian is one of the last studios still out there that is capable of producing good RPGs. They're not focused exclusively on politics, they tend not to inject that sort of thing into their games, and they focus on making good games with good writing and good characters. And it would be a tragedy for the RPG world if that were lost due to instances of corporate greed. So, I'm a bit worried about what's happened with this pricing. I hope it works out somehow, but it's definitely a concern I have. And as always, thank you for tuning in. And if you like my videos and my takes, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's much appreciated as it really helps out the channel, and I will check you out next time. Take care.